What was your school's huge scandal? In middle school, we had some rumors spread around that a certain gym teacher, MRS. J, was peeping on girls undressing. These rumors spread and got pretty vicious. People started saying that MRS. J tried to get girls alone in the locker room and had a type that she'd go after. We had a school-wide assembly where the principal berated the students for spreading these unsubstantiated rumors and how hurtful and disrespectful it was to MRS. J and our teachers. 2 years later, MRS. J was arrested for molesting 3 girls a year alone. Many other former students came out about similar experiences, some dating back 15 plus years prior to her arrest. Edit. Clarification. Edit 2. Stop asking if this was in your state city. I'm not telling you. Principal had an affair with my AP Chem teacher. The school board came down hard on the teacher, and she was suspended for most of the year, which sucked because none of us passed the test. Principal got a slap on the wrist, though he ended up quitting at the end of the year. After a snowfall, I quickly gathered my squad of friends and made boulder-sized snowballs. Then we placed them so if you looked out from the upper windows it was a big D. Even got 2 teachers to help who just wanted to connect with us. They didn't realize what they had assisted with until the entire teacher faculty poured out from the building like angry wasps. I mean, I don't know if this counts, but one of our prefects got caught drinking in a bar, legally, in regular clothes. I know. How could he? And because of that the school took away his badge, and so in protest all our prefects lined up in front of the principal's office and handed in their badges. It was chaos. A contest of chicken between the school and the student leaders, and in the end the school blinked first and gave everyone back their badges. Edit. This did a bit better than I was expecting. In the space of 3 years, my former high school in a very wealthy, white, and rural area churned out the scandals. 1. The 60 years old pay teacher was arrested for a sexual relationship with a 15-year-old, served 5 years in prison. He was caught physically mailing nude photos of himself to an underage student's house, which the student's parents intercepted. 2. The history teacher was arrested when a cop pulled him and one of his students over. Found drugs in the car and they were both high. Turns out he was supplying coke to students. He had to serve a decent chunk of time. 3. The 40-plus-year-old volleyball coach married one of his players the second she turned 18, and no one said did anything when they were dating when she was 15/16. We had a ban on bringing our own bottles to school and could only purchase drinks from the school store because there was an alcohol problem. Kids would come to school with pretty much anything they could get their hands on and would start drinking in first period. One day, before the ban, they did a sweep in first period and had everyone open their water bottles and check what was inside. I think there were over 50 kids caught that day. We also had a problem with opioids. Ambulances were there at least twice a year to get someone that overdosed in the gym. Update. This was public school in South Carolina, US. Someone found an empty lube container in a couch in a classroom that was generally open. They got rid of the couch. A kid also drove a dirt bike through the halls and got arrested. Boys dean got caught with a girl in his office. She was 17. It's the reason that office now has a window in the door. Guy and his girlfriend lure a 10th grader to the school after hours. They are on acid and pretend to be natural born killers and hold her down and stab her 11 times. My friend finds her body opening the window in math class the morning after. This was 25 years ago and she is out of jail and back around the community. The guy is still in jail, I believe. Edit. Number of times the poor girl was stabbed. Guy got blown by his GF in the floor of the biology section. Both 16-17. The floor was completely surrounded by glass. Even the top. You could see everything in it from every direction. There was just no place to hide. Our new high-tech library with fancy full glass front was like 5 meters in front of it. So someone eventually saw it. Didn't got into much trouble, though, since this happened in probably the most liberal area in Germany. Our head, not a hick, of biology just gave them a VIP talk about the bees and birds, and some condoms. A little more than a week after the Parkland shooting, our principal suddenly got on the intercom and told us to evacuate the building. We did. and we hadn't gone through proper evacuation procedures. So we all ended up all over the damn town. One kid literally ran all the way home, trying to figure out where we're supposed to go. We all assumed it was a potential bomb threat and got sent home for the day. Over the next week, the school changed their story about 4 times. So us students started freaking the duck out and started trying to figure out what exactly had happened to trigger the evacuation. But 2 things happened that finally made the situation escalate out of control. 1. The principal called us into an assembly and proceeded to blame us for the rumors, as though it was our fault they couldn't get their stories straight. 2. Students finally figured out that what had happened was that someone had accidentally left their sandwich in a locker overnight. Then someone smelled the rotting food, got a teacher, and that teacher panicked and caused the evacuation. I think a total of 7 people in all got fired by the time the dust settled. Some kids climbed on the roof and a boy sprayed just one kiss on the side of the building in big letters cause he was in unrequited love. The school board thought it was a courageous gesture and left it up for years, possibly forever, cause it was up for the entire 6 years I went to school there. We were on an episode of Sally Jesse Raphael as the next Columbine, a disgruntled employee, a teacher, possibly a long-term sub, that was only there for a little while, slipped on a piece of paper on the tile and broke her arm headed to break up a fight. She told the story under anonymity as broke her arm breaking up a fight, and proceeded to talk about how unsafe and unmonitored the school was. The show sent someone with hidden camera glasses to walk in and show how easy access was for potential shooters. Dude walked all around the school and was never stopped. This is in small town Kentucky near FT Knox. When the show aired they sent the school a copy of the episode and we watched it on the in-school TV system. Afterward the school installed doors that locked going one way from the outside into the building but still allowed for people to exit, and funneled all traffic through the front door and installed cameras everywhere. This was 1999 to 2000. I was a freshman. There seems to be a lot of confusion about the doors. They locked them so they wouldn't open if you were trying to come in the building but would still let you out of the building. Now a lot of schools make you buzz in at the front door and they unlock it remotely from the office. Our principal's son was mentally ill. One night, they were all gathered in the school office. Son comes in with a grenade in his hand because of family issues. Police were called and only 2 police officers arrived. After police 1 and 2 arrive, some more policemen came by. The late policeman wrongly identified police 1 and shot him, mistakenly thinking he was the mentally ill son with the grenade. Police 1 happens to be a father of 2 children. Those 2 study in our school. Police 1 is dead now because of blood loss and the mentally ill son is now in jail. Those 2 kids get free tuition from the school since they effed up big time. This was like a year or 2 after Columbine. One kid that was smart, AP classes, band and overall nerd with a bright future decided to do a dumbass bomb threat. He wrote on a piece of paper bomb in room and put it against the window. Ruined his life. Saw him years later and he was working min wage or maybe slightly over. Didn't graduate high school and was working on his GED. Oh, my senior year we had a freshman that knocked up multiple girls. They took him on Maury and he was the father. At our high school a dude was caught wanking in the back of class multiple times, and then a school nearby had a student kill themselves in the commons on the day of their football matchup versus us. The game was supposed to be at their school but they moved it to ours because of all the police stuff. We were on an undefeated season and weren't gonna lose, but we all felt really bad about winning. There were a couple of kids from our school that made jokes that the other student killed himself because he was afraid of facing our football team. Needless to say, they were quickly sorted out. In high school we had a long-term substitute teacher. She gave a student Xanax and had sex with him. He had proof of it in his phone so she gave another student a gun to go rob him and take his phone to delete the evidence. She got arrested. Update. Yes, I know it was abuse. I wrote it 2 minutes before I went into work so I wasn't focused on the wording and whether it was a male or female student I would have worded it the same. After the school closed down a bunch of students came out saying the English teacher and her husband frequently sexually assaulted students, both male and female. A letter was written to the prosecutor's office and everything. There's been countless stories that have come out about it. Girl got super drunk at a party and someone videoed guys raping her. Spread via Bluetooth. There was a female student in my class that by all accounts was your stereotypical social outcast. She would always appear to be exhausted and never focused on her studies in class. Then during our senior year of high school she disappeared. It wasn't until a few months after graduation that the reason appeared in the local papers. Apparently, she was escorting herself on the other side of the county since she could drive. To which she got caught in a local police sting on prostitution. When the authorities learned of her age, they immediately jumped at the opportunity to make a deal with her. All crimes will appear on her juvenile record, to which would be sealed thereafter. For a complete list of her Johns with an emphasis on those that knew she was underage. Because of my volunteer work in the community, I knew a few of the local police officers who filled me in on some of the details that never made it to the papers. Some of the Johns included various government officials, clergymen, paramedics, various fields of doctors, and lots of teachers from throughout the county, 2 of which worked in our district and definitely knew who she was. We legitimately had 21 Jump Street at my school. 2 undercover cops, a guy with a mohawk and a normally looking girl, went to the high school with us for an entire school year, and at the end of the year arrested over 20 kids on drug-related charges. One of my friends got arrested, 16, for introducing one of the cops to a dealer. Called himself a broker lol. Not sure if anyone remembers this on the news about 5 years ago. UK teacher was real life Breaking Bad. Meth lab in the basement claiming it was a friend's. History teacher was caught pleasuring himself under his desk to a class full of 6th formers. Welsh teacher was selling weed out of her classroom too. Underfunded education hahaha. One of the teachers thought she was all that and used to go out clubbing every weekend alongside many of the students from the school's 6th form, UK, age 17-18. Suddenly one week she started giving everyone the cold shoulder. Turned out she'd had a screaming fit at the club that weekend when she found her boyfriend snogging one of her students. There was some teacher visiting our school who thought it was a smart plan to educate kids, 15, 16, 17-ish, on drugs. It was actually a smart plan, except for that he took a suitcase with the actual drugs with him. I don't know the full story because I didn't attend that lecture. What I do know though, is that a bag of actual sugar was stolen from that suitcase. There was a whole manhunt going on for the person who had stolen it, but they never found who stole it or the sugar. In my school, one of the students got kicked out of class 109 times but was still allowed to be in charge of the student newspaper. 7th grader trading 6 for heroin. IDK if this counts, but 2 students at my school made a 6 tape and the video spread like crazy. Everyone watched it and some people would watch it at school with friends like WTF. The teachers had to keep telling students that it was illegal to have the video and if we got caught sending it to others we'd be in serious trouble. Not a scandal per se, but it turned out that our all-weather pitch was built on a famine pit. The school was built on the grounds of a famine workhouse. So whoops. But they just put up a monument and continued to use the pitch. Oh, actually, one of the geography teachers locked a student in a cupboard for the duration of his class as punishment for something. And the real scandal is that nothing happened to the teacher. He was truly awful. I had him for 3 years and he used to smoke cigars out the window and play poker with some of the students. I wish I was joking, but it's almost impossible to fire a teacher. The phys. Ed. Teacher basketball coach, M, began an affair with the English teacher, F. His first year as coach, she left her husband. He only lasted 1 year. Another English teacher left her husband. The metal shop teacher. For the girls phys. Ed. Teacher, F. They moved in together just down the street from where I lived. An 11th grade student, M, got the algebra teacher pregnant. Mind you, this all happened in the same year. Oh, those gloriously wicked 70s. Our high school band teacher had a secret affair with one of the students and it wasn't found out about until the year after she graduated. They spent a lot of energy investigating when exactly their relationship started. A lot of us in band and orchestra were aware something was going on her senior year. But it was a shock to the community when he was put on leave and the news broke. She had also dated his son prior, who attended the same school and was in my grade. It was very painful for him. I think they got married, but he's still a predator in my book. Haven't kept up with it since. A girl killed herself, and school tried hiding it. We've had two major ones. A science teacher was a terrorist from Zimbabwe, and a music teacher, female, slept with a sixth former. The first one is a tad more extreme lol. Also, I go to a Christian school. IA high school assistant coach fooled around with the goalie on the girls soccer team. Source: was the goalie on the girls soccer team. A geography teacher caught a history teacher banging his wife in the school library. A history teacher was his best man at the wedding. Also, a PE teacher threw a janitor through a door during class. It is regarded as one of the best schools in my country. I guess this is one since it made the regional news. Was that a French teacher had vocabulary test where you would stand by the closed classroom door and he would quiz you on the repeated French vocabulary errors you made. If made the mistake again, he would likely underhand toss a volleyball at the back of your head. A student had recorded on their phone, and once a parent found out, they went straight to the news. I know my mom started freaking out, and my older brother said yes, he remembers it, and it apparently improved vocabulary and grammar. Oh, so many. There was a race war for a bit between the Hmong students and rednecks, to the point school got cancelled one day. A fight was going to happen. A match teacher married a former student and athlete he coached soon after she turned 18. A kid drove his car through the wall in the cafeteria. A mysterious fire started and killed all the animals in the animal science classroom. We couldn't wear coats, but the classrooms were in the low 60s during the winter. After all, the classrooms were using colder towels to trick the thermostat. They let us wear coats. Catholic high school. Small town, Ohio. High school wrestling coach and history teacher, male, secretly nailing students, female, while using peddling sugar to staff and students alike. Basketball coach indicted for embezzling escrow funds from his real estate and title firm for betting in Atlantic City. Moved to CA. High school chem teacher busted. Was Major Norcal LSD producer. We had a guy that would go into the bathrooms and smear his poop all over the walls and jerk off on all of the toilet paper. He'd destroy any bathroom that he went into, and we wouldn't be able to use it for a couple of days. Our principal would get on the loudspeakers at school and announce that the poopertrator has struck again and tell us what bathroom not to use. This lasted for about 3 weeks. It was a 6'7" goth of a giant, probably weighing 350 plus pounds. He finally got caught in the act and had a chase through the entire school, running through the lunchroom, down to the gym, just knocking anybody over who tried to get in his way. The football coach was finally able to tackle him after he sprinted through the school with it on his hands for 15 plus minutes. It was actually my fault. When I was 11, I was just known as the quiet kid who was good at drawing, but another kid offered me money to make hentai for him and I accepted, and eventually I got more customers, as he told several other people, and eventually it grew into a small underground market of hentai. But word of it got out a little bit too much, and eventually someone told the principal and I was caught. Take your pick. The music teacher, BJ Jones, killed himself after being arrested for being a pedo. A kid killed his dad with a hammer. The school ski trip was cancelled after one of the instructors was caught ducking another teacher in a classroom the day before departure. This one made the national press. One of the twins was pregnant at 16. A girl was killed walking home from the rugby club. Lead to a proper footpath being fitted. The principal of the middle school I attended had his office raided by my hometown's vice squad for selling meth under the guise of parent conferences. Rumor has it when the breacher kicked in the door, the principal had his pants around his ankles, was engaging with himself, and had a marital aid where the sun don't shine. In middle school, we had this older male teacher. He was known for being a photographer in his free time, but there were rumors that he also made some naked pictures of women girls. According to older grades, he once asked a girl in the school if she was down to make some spicy pictures. IDK if this actually happened. But the same teacher was suspended for 2 years due to personal reasons, or SMTH. According to the older students, I had biology with him in 8th grade and the dude was really kind and friendly. when our headmaster, who'd pretty much started our private school from scratch 25 years earlier, was arrested for embezzlement. The way they explained it was the red and some disorganization in the paperwork. However, our headmaster taught the advanced math class, so there's no way he would mess up the numbers on his paperwork consistently, at least not without actively trying to. The gym was called The Rock. Showed up one morning and the R was replaced with a C. This was on a huge gym, so it took some time to take down. Good one. 2 elementary age kids got in a fight on the school bus. The dad of one went to the Waffle House and shot the other dad. A teacher had an affair with one or more his underage students. Happened twice. 2 different schools. 2 different teachers. Our high school biology teacher was recently arrested for solicitation of a minor. He DM'd her saying that he needed her body. It was super creepy. Myth, but it broke into the news a couple years after I graduated. It was absolutely hilarious. The students all knew about how many kids were on it. We didn't even pretend to keep it secret. But nobody gave it right up until some rich kid OD'd. Several poor redneck kids had been shot, but nobody cared. Then everyone lost their ducking minds, howling and wailing, how could we have known? As if we hadn't been telling them for years. I walked in on my teacher hardcore making out with the principal. It was disgusting and really traumatized me. I was homeschooled. Backstory: there was this kid who I saw get pushed into my lunch table. I yelled and the 2 bullies ran while the teacher took notice, but never met them, so I couldn't ID them. Fast forward, I believe it was a basketball or some other male sport, but when they ran out of the locker room everyone noticed we were a player short. Someone decides to investigate and discover the same bullied kid crying. Turns out the whole team, which includes the bullies, has sexually assaulted him. Only 2 were sent hauled off, but only to jail. Short sentence from the average time even for juvie. We had to forfeit as well, and surprisingly they tried to cover that up too, even though news stations was there to show off each high school starting game. Surprisingly it worked and everyone forgot and just kept quiet. The 3x Teacher of the Year winner at my elementary school got caught putting a camera in the women's faculty bathroom. In high school, our principal was extremely selective with who got punished for violating dress code. If you were a cheerleader or played volleyball, you were immune no matter what you wore. If you were anybody else, you'd get punished. After multiple girls were literally ambushed by teachers in the hallway and given suspensions, the school revolted. Everybody started to wear girls' Nike shorts. And I mean everybody, including the football team. It went on for about a week and made local news before the school amended the dress code policy. There was an industrial arts teacher who ran a club for the guys who built sets for school plays. Part of joining the club was an initiation where you had to run down this particular hallway naked. The hallway had doors at both ends so it could be closed off for the initiation and it wouldn't be seen by casual passers-by. The teacher was secretly videotaping these initiations, and eventually someone found out about it. The teacher was definitely fired, but I don't remember if any criminal charges were brought against him. One of my classmates burned the school down right before winter break our senior year. Didn't really matter to me since I was graduating early anyhow. The finals I'd already taken counted as extra credit. When looking at my school's website it referred to Google Maps, where when you clicked on the link you saw 2 huge D's on the roof of the school. What happened was that my school had small pebbles on the roof. Some students climbed up and gently pushed the pebbles aside to form 2 huge pen sizes. Shortly before the school got renovated it was in newspaper with the title D drawing on school building discovered. I have a screenshot of the newspaper article where you can also see the DEs on school. My senior year of high school, one of the biggest hockey players was dead by a girl he liked to record himself having sex with a cat, to which he did just that. He only got kicked from the hockey team and there were no charges for obscenity since his father was a cop who knew how to pull some strings. I went to a Catholic school. My 6th grade homeroom teacher was a guy in his late 40s early 50s. Classmates once told me they saw him looking at my ass. The next year we got a letter in the mail saying he was arrested for trying to meet up with an underage girl he was talking to online. Sad part was he was married and had 2 daughters around that age. Star football player was caught getting a blowjob from a freshman in his dad's classroom. He was still able to participate in the next game. Few things come to mind. I spent a lot of time in the pupil support center, and one day there was a new kid who was very autistic. I could hear him in the room next to mine, yelling and screaming because he'd been told to do work, after multiple teachers had been summoned to try calm him down. I heard him run through the doors. I left about 10 minutes later and there was a tree outside the PSC, and he'd climbed to the top of it. He was threatening to jump. BTW, he wouldn't die from that height, but he'd break a limb or four, and half the school had congregated to watch. It was also his last day as he got moved to a special school. Age 13. Another new kid, but he joined my year. Second day, there was an assembly in the sports hall, and he let out a massive fart. Like nuclear. Like echoed around the room. Like stunk out an ungodly radius. He was immediately dubbed a nerd, and could only make friends with nerdy kids. Which is good news for me because 5 years later and we're still best friends. Our woodworking teacher was called Pedo Parry almost exclusively. Tons of rumors that he touched kids, boys and girls. There was even a song about him to the tune of Bob the Builder. Pedo Parry, can he touch you? Pedo Parry, yes he can. Worked there the entire time I was there, and nothing came of it. But given the huge amount of stories from him I feel like there should have been an investigation. At least,